So if you are on the Discord, I will do a ping. Okay. So there we go. So now I can have a main, and then I can use, this works. Hello, viewers, right? And let's run that with, I don't know, whatever standard settings I have, but hopefully we'll see here. Oh, wait, module, right? We say module, otherwise it's going to be very unhappy. Right, so now it knows it's a module, and the ID crashed again. So there we go. So see here, down here, I hope that's visible. Let me check that. It's kind of not visible. Let me see if I can fix that for you. So the screen here is a little bit too big. I think this should kind of give everything. Maybe I'll just tweak it a little more. So there we go. Okay. So you see there, hello viewers. So this is kind of something I don't use myself, but I recognize that when you are using weird stuff, like maybe someone has a good some idea that a module name should be super long or something, then you need the aliasing. So you have that option anyway. And feel free, if you're in the chat, feel free to ask questions. So I'm just going to, so feel free to ask questions if you have them, right? Okay, so that was a very basic thing. So next time we have these contributions, nice contributions. So in log2 and these, so you can do count leading zeros as a built-in, right? So basically you should be able to do, if I have a compile time variable x, I should be able to do, let me see where that is. It's I think it's in maths. Yes, we'll see that. So if I have 23, like what are the leading zeros for that? We can do something like this. Now, of course, this could be runtime, but now we have to prove that this is compile time, right? So let's see here. Let's run this, and now get. I think it's an error, right? Oh, I forgot I didn't remove that aliasing. So now we go. Now we're fine. Now it's built in. Good. So 27 leading zeros, and so we can do some bytes here, right? So, that's a very, very weird binary. So something like this. And now this size should be, I think, a short. Let's cast it a short anyway. So we should get a few less leading zeros now. So one leading zero. So we can have that, and we should get some more. Right, 4. Okay, so and then a corresponding function for getting the logarithm and the int value of the logarithm. Then there's the bit size of macros. So you can, there's always the size of, right? So you can get, of and then bit size of. So if I take, int size of, so let's see, the bit size of is like this, right? So it should be, so size of 1, and then we have the bit size of 1, right? If I understand correctly, if I remember it correctly, I might have, yeah. So it's just multiplied by 8, convenience. Okay, so let's go back to the release notes here, and we'll get the compile time min and max. And I think I'm just gonna speed it up because otherwise we'll like really do the things slowly. So you can investigate all these new built-ins. We have the deprecation of compact. So the old way was like you could do if you had some struct foo and you knew, you know, this is not going to have any spaces. You can could call it compact, and you can still call it compact, but and then that would give you equals. So you could just have like foo a is 1.2, and then foo b is 3.4, and then you could compare them equals b like that. But now we're deprecating this and just go for the overload instead. So you do the equals, maybe equal that, and you can have the self and the other, and then you do operator equals and do this instead. So you can see like okay, so self a is self is other b, other a, other a, and self b equals other b, or just do a mem compare, right? But this is more correct. Like if you had float here, for example, then would actually compact would just work, but it would be not quite correct. So we go for this, and so that means compact is deprecated for this usage. Okay, let me see if there are any questions so far. No questions. Let's go. So, we get the switch available for time implementing equals to, so that if we do this now, suddenly we can do, if I had that part. So let's see here. Let's compile this a bit. Okay, so we have this. So now we can switch on it. So we can switch case A equals A equals B. A equals B, and then we can have like case A equals A, and then we have like A equals A, right? And that should then print something and work, presumably. Oh wait, did I? Oh, no return type, and that's a bad thing. Bool cannot. Let's see here. Oh, put that one there. So A equals A, but let's say we have like they cannot be the same. that's what they are the same, right? We should get like A equals B, yeah. So that works. Okay, so let's go further down. Methods now ignore visibility settings, so you can't do put this as like a private because of a lot of reasons, but handling it is bad, and also the behavior is kind of unexpected everywhere, so it's gone. We already had that public methods were visible even if not important. So if you pass a foo to something that doesn't import foo, you can still call the methods on it, which otherwise wouldn't be possible. So that's the thing here. Okay, this is only about calling them as a dot syntax. Okay, let's go. Allow in, out, and untyped macro parameters, even if they're not pointers. So sometimes it was hard to write something like macro foo. We're gonna take an x, right? And it's if type of, or equals pointer, in that case we do something, return the dereft thing, else, we just return x. So let's say we had this, right? So this works well. You can just like do, we can just print, what do we call it? What did you call it? So foo, right? So let's just call that on 2. This would just be a pass-through, right? So it will take the 2 and then it just prints the 2, right? But what if we do, like, x, I use those all the time. So if I just do this, and now I take an x, then and it should print the 2. And so that's what this macro does. So hang on, so x couldn't be fine. Okay, I call it xx. Okay. So yeah, it shows. But the problem was that I couldn't then do a contract here saying, param in x, because x was not always a pointer. So it was like, if I would change this to 2, it would be an error because it was it's not a pointer anymore. But now this is allowed, so kind of give some leeway and not check that. So if it's not a pointer, it's just ignored, but only for macros. Yeah, and now we have lists that used to have add array. So when you had a list, you had like list int ABC, and then you could just ABC, and then you just add all from some, you can make an int array like this, right? So you could do this. Let's put it like that. So, and then we can just print that. Let's remove a bunch of things. So, oops, did I do something? Okay, you can't. Yeah, it has to be the reference of it. Okay. Hang on. Can't constant. Okay, so that's all an add array. Sorry. Now it works better, right? But this, and you see here, there's a deprecation notice. Use push all, because we all use push, right? So this is more like push all of them. Makes more sense. I think I can just drop this and have inference, but I'm not sure. So let's see. I can do that. Maybe not. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Okay. So that was that change. That was just a name change. So fix the max module name to 31 characters. So that means if you are crazy and think like, yeah, my name is just going to be on this, right? It does tell you it's a bad thing, and you can't. I think that's 52 characters. So yeah, you can't have it longer, and then something like this. And it's too long. That's 35. So I don't think someone will have like one segment that is this big, and then there's like this this limit. If you have more things, then together they can't exceed 63. Sorry. And okay, that's still 63. That's a pretty long one, but here 72 characters. So this would be too long. I think this is reasonable. Cogen might want to do more, but it's just like it's not usable for more. Okay, so then there's some error message improvements around end if. So if you have like forget about it like this, right? You get a better error message. So here you go, like okay, so like this expected end if, right? And then unterminated if was up there. It's really great. I think this was like who did this? Okay, it's a bit quiet. Sorry then. About that. Hang on. I just going to turn up the sensitivity in a second. I'm just gonna grab who was it. So it was Fox Kiana, so who found that one, I think. Okay, let me see if I can make it even more sensitive. I can have it max already, but maybe I can do some settings in my system settings. So microphone. This might also be because of my voice right now. So voice control, accessibility, sound input. So that input volume was a bit low, right? Now it should be better, right? Hopefully a lot better, but I don't know. I hope so. I certainly hope so. So let me know if the sound is better now. So let's continue. So we have also this nice improvement. So this is now implemented as this access is now implemented as this kind of thing, which means you can do like one problem that you had was if you have a list of lists, right, for example. So I have a list, and let's define that. I think alias list int list. So it's ABC, right? So int list, and then we have an int list. Oh, sorry, I didn't define that. Okay, so now all of these are temporary allocated, so you know. So we're gonna push all, 1, 2, like that, and then we're gonna push that one to ABC. Or push through. So now we should be able to see this in all this glory. I forgot this module name. Let's not run with that one. So we get just sorry, I wanted to have BBC, of course. So you see that. Now we might want to access it and edit it. So if we do like, let's take the first element like from ABC and then take the second one and then set that to 3 instead, and then try to print that. So like this. I didn't test it, so hopefully it works. Otherwise, yeah, so now it works. This didn't work before. It was kind of a gotcha. So now it works properly. Or if a stack allocated variable is too big. So if you decide that you want a big one, so maybe you want an int with, megabyte, that's a megabyte, right? Size on the stack, right? What happens? So what would usually happen was that would just break. So now it's actually it's a the size of this variable is 4 megabytes and exceeds the maximum allowed stack size. So don't put this. This is fine if you have it here, right? That's fine. Don't put it in the stack because you will just burst the stack. So 64 kilobytes is already pretty big for a stack, so don't do that unless you know it's like the last thing you do in the stack and you're gonna jump back from there. Don't put my big things in there. 64 kilobytes is still a bit, but it's a reasonable thing. So yeah, well, let's see if I can get through this. I'm feeling a headache coming out. So, safe infer, allow var to be used locally. Yeah. So usually I don't really condone having this kind of thing, right? Like this. And this will be an error if you try to do this, right? So, oh, something inside, yeah. But you can override this by using safe infer. So you can do like this. This looks not so nice, right? And that's deliberately. I don't want people to misuse this feature. I don't want, like in general, type inference is not a good idea unless you really need it. So, but if you really need it for some reason, I already turned it on. You always use var for lambdas because you can't easily type those. But more than that, I there are situations where you kind of, it would make it easier to just get that inference because you get something from a macro that it's hard to describe or something. So for that, when you want to overall, you can just override basically the safety or so we say. This is like also for macros. Macros are, you have to have the @ symbol for macros, but you can say safe macro if it has like some like hash arguments or something. But you can say safe macro, boom, it works. So it's about you shouldn't do that, but you can also override it if you decide that you want this. And if you think safe infer is too long, you can make it shorter by creating an alias. So it's just tiny nudging. If I had var without this macro, people would think that you're supposed to use var because why else do you have that feature? So this is kind of, it's making it more clear that it's not a feature that it's intended to be used all the time. Types converts to type ID implicitly. And this is like a tiny thing, a tiny sentence here, but this changes a lot of things actually. So if you're writing macros, you might want to test, like if they're untyped, you kind of have something like foo, you want to check them. So what you would do is like something like if you wrote it from scratch, you like if type of x and then take the type ID equals int type ID. Well, it wasn't int. It was an int, right? Else, it was something else. Of course, you can do. This is a stupid example because you would do it with in other ways, but just an example. So you can have like foo 1.0 and foo 2, right? And we can run this, and you see it's like it was something else. It wasn't it right down here. Oh, and by the way, see if I have any questions. No questions yet. Okay, good. But this is kind of quite a lot. So what we had was like a type is macro, right? Not everyone knew about this, but then you could just write this, and it's short. The problem is that you have to know about this macro and get used to it. So if you write a lot of macros, you will know about this macro, but it's also not very clear. So if you just read it and try to get into it. So what happens is that I change this. First of all, implicit turning into type ID. And that means this works. Now the plugin doesn't know how to handle this, so you get an error, but this works. So all of these long kind of all those macros tend to not be that important anymore, because you can just use types like this. Okay, so and then together with that, like before, you have like if you wanted to see if something is going to be assigned to int, you've done like assignable to, and you take your expression and then int, right? So now we can assign it to int. We can do like, okay, int a equals x. Like this, right? And if I run this code, I'll get a deprecation notice, but we will get, it was something else assignable to an int. Okay. What we get now is like taking defined. So the defined is the one people should be using nowadays for everything, for checking everything. So what I do is just to duplicate that exact code that I want to test later. So just like this. It's an assignment because now defined works with assignments. So like this, and now works. But if I would write something that syntactically doesn't work, this is just a compilation error. So here we go. Boom. It's an error. This X doesn't exist. So this is kind of cleaning up all the compile time contracts that we had. And maybe I can, yeah. So let's see if I can have some example of that. We tend to have a lot of these when we do things like lists and sorting. So let's see in the binary search. No, that might not be super representative of that. So let's see if I can find something with a. All right, so okay, this is also introducing another thing, so maybe not that. Well, I didn't prepare, so let's skip that. But there are changes. So structs and typedef now sometimes inherit dynamic functions. So that means if I have this struct foo a, and then I have a struct bar, right, and it's inline foo f, and then this one is printable, for example. Let's do like printf foo a. Hang on, it's a, yes, that's the right one. And then I have to put it dynamic. Otherwise, it's not picked up as part of this printable. So now we want to have a bar. A man walked into a bar, and we just set that to 3, and then we can try to print it using printf. Otherwise, printable will not work. So, oh, did I do? Yeah, I forgot to return it. So I get foo3. So this is inheriting this implementation, and I can, of course, I can then override it if I want to. Bar, and then is implement bar. Yeah, I can go for all A, right? But anyway, it's clear. So now I should also put printable on top of that one. Now that I implemented, but no, boom, it did. Oh wait, what I yeah, it's I'm doing the right thing. So we can just do like this, so it shows it. So printable P is B, right? And then we can just see that they did well. I guess we have to do it like this. But one interesting thing is that what happens if I don't implement this, right? And then I don't say I implement it like this. So here it still goes through and is considered printable. So okay, just looking at the questions here. If there are any unread streaming, let's see here, streams. So nothing there, and yeah. So okay, I think that add safe and fair is a good idea, and also working not being allow auto, which did something. Yeah, and someone could provide safe default implementation of methods. Yes, is it possible to get the address of foo from bar? I mean, the address of foo is the same as bar, right? It's just going to be the same address because it has to be in the at the top. So there is no placing it in further down. Odin does permit that, but as of now, C3 like requires it to be the top one, so they always share the same address. Okay, let's head on. Improve the directory creation error messages. So there were some improvements there if you fail to create a project or a library. I'm just not going to deal with that one. Just jump for that. It's just an improvement there. Assign number 2 is deprecating favor define, and that's something I already showed you with like this. You can do the defined int x equals something something, and then you can just see that it will work in that case. Okay, and link libdir. So let's see if I have an example of this already, but maybe not. I think I did some projects and then I threw them away. But before, when you had a library, create the library, you had to have like each target. It was just directly created like all subdirectories where you're supposed to place your libraries and resources and stuff like that for each target. That was just directly into the root of that directory. So now you can put it one step down, so it's cleaner, and it's going to be like that by default. So if you're writing libraries, you can check that out. So also another improvement with libraries is that before, if you had a library of some sort, then let's see if maybe I have some. Before, if you had a library, oops, of some sort, then let's see if maybe I have some. Before, if you had a library. God damn it! I accidentally just opened the web page. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's see if I have that library here somewhere. No, I feel very self-conscious about my voice after hearing it there. So here's an example of a library, but that one's too rudimentary to show anything. Sorry about that. But the point is that if you have like a Mac OS hyphen or x64, right? And you didn't, you don't. That's the one. That's the platform you're on, and you'd have to have like one for that and a one for ARM64. So you had both of them, and you have to put libraries and stuff like that in both, like differently. But now, if it doesn't find that, like if it doesn't find my Mac OS x64, we just go and look for Mac OS, so you can have those common libraries when you have these or common resources and so on. So it will go for that afterwards. And a file with an inferred module may not contain an additional other modules. So this is just addressing a problem. So people would do like this. I would do like this. Like, do you see the problem? Here's an actual module here, and then that module would sorry, distracted, just people coming in. So the module would be here, right, and get the import, and then we start the module then called debug stuff here would start here, and then here's the test module. And this is kind of pretty much always unintentional. You don't want a module with an inferred name and then a normal one. The inferred one is very useful if you just have some very short code that you want to test quickly and just get started. But otherwise, you have them. If you start using modules, then you have a module for everything. Okay, let me have that module for everything so I can have other modules. So that's now an error. And we had an update on the error message for missing body after if. So that's like if you have something like if a, right? And then maybe you have it at the end. So like if a, right? And then you get a more useful error, namely the body on if state was expected here. So otherwise, it's just a mismatched end brace, but that's a worse error message. And we see another ones, like we see is const and is L value is deprecated for using also again defined. So it turns out you can see if something is a constant by doing like just assign it to a compile time variable. So this will be true, and if I have something like B, then that will be false. And and you can see if something is an L value too by assigning it to itself. If it's if it's an L value, you can assign it to itself. So very simple. So you don't need to have built-in compile time functions for it. You don't need to have any complex macros for it. You just do it like that. So that reduces the code, and this is going to mirror what you want to do anyway. Like this mirrors code instead of having some weird thing and you have to think about what it means. The kind of that we touched on that. So now instead of doing something like if I want to print the what type something is, and I don't know what the type is, like normally you would know it. So before it was this, if I wanted to know the kind. So now we'll get the kind, which is abstract. But now you can go for it directly. So it does the same thing under the cover, but it is shorter. It does help a bit. And especially again in macro contracts is super easy now, so you don't have to go by way of test. And we tried other ways around this. So I had this example of, let's shorten type of, and had like something like this and stuff like that. But we don't need that now, because like almost all of those cases were this kind of anyway. So yeah. I think we're getting towards the end finally. So and again, so we had like type kind, which was just doing kind of. So instead of we do like type kind b, the macro, and you have to know about this one again. This does the same thing as this kind of thing, but it has to be it's a macro. There's the type is, and I showed this, and we now just get the type of and just compare. And now the last feature is so this is a little complicated, but let's try to show. So we're getting something new. We're getting this kind of thing. And this is not really useful if it's typed. So what I'm going to do is like if defined I, then I got this, it else I got nothing. So what we're going to do is now we're going to have like foo, just do foo, or we're going to just do foo b. Okay. And oh, I didn't define bar, right? Let's have something that's more fun to. Yeah. Let's take a list. Let's make a list A, right? And we're gonna push the array. 1, 3, 5. Right? Oh, wrong. So, oops, push. Wasn't push all. Sorry, push. Wasn't it push array? Push all. Sorry. I was like, it was add array and push all. So now we didn't get anything the first time. But the problem was that if I had some unevaluated thing, then what happened is that before it would just look at if the thing inside of it was defined or not. But we don't want that. We just want it to be if that hash thing exists, we want this behavior. Sorry, we need to have an at here because we had this hash element thing. So I got nothing, I got 1 to 3, yeah. And this would not work, but sometimes you kind of want this to be work in a different way. So what we can do is that we are now, I added a new one, so we have defined, like if I, let me show you if I something, like if I have B here, right? We are going and getting an array in I got blah blah blah, right? So in here we got there, but we can also do like making sure that it is defined, and then we have to do like this. If it is defined and everything is defined, then we have that. Otherwise, we're just going to go I got something unknown. So now we have like we send B, A, and B. So this one works as the old, like the old one. Right. And to be able to actually work this further, there I am actually making something like this as well. So if you want to forward this, so let me say we have a foob, and it want to be like the same thing, and I don't want to have to write it in different ways. Like if I just do it naively, I would have like say, okay, if defined I, then in that case we run foo with I. Otherwise, we run foo without anything, right? So we can do this. So we call it foob, foob, right? And this works, but it's kind of like if you have two of them and stuff like that, things get gnarly. So what's available is this like conditional unwrapping of it. It's like this argument is a vararg, and we are, a vararg that is either 0 or 1, and then we can splat it. So now we should be able to do this, and it works. So this is kind of forwarding thing. So I can have multiple of those as well. So somewhat interesting. J, I can have like this, and then I have to be careful. Like I have to really use something like this. If I want to forward it, because otherwise, like, okay, let's forward like this and that, and then maybe I go like, okay, this is still fine, but what if I go for like foob, and then I say j is a, right? What should happen then is, okay, we have to do the j as well. This looks a bit complicated, I know. Oh wait, where do I go? So okay, hang on. Yeah, I forgot the J to. Hang on, that was a bit wrong. Like this. So here you got, in the last one you got nothing because it was, this one it worked so that it, if I didn't do like this and I had just like this, then they are kind of moving together. So the last one is just going to give, it's just going to shift the arguments. So those were the changes, and we then have a bunch of fixes. Let me just go through them quickly. Kind of tired, I guess now, but I can do this. So we have, let's say, remove at would trigger an ASAN if you were running with that, with address sanitizer. Bad, and there were some code gen errors in if try. It's like if you had this kind of bit more complicated thing in here with unknown empty, and actually an ABI problem with AVX 512 bit vectors, so big passing big vectors would not lower correctly. Reduce the VMEM, so basically if you have a compiler on sort of 2-bit machines, it tries to start with less virtual memory located. A compiler with parsing a broken lambda, regressions, and let's see here we get a lot of fixes. So okay, so this was different for, so some regressions. yeah, tag was not allowed to repeat. Some issues around lambdas and tags. Yeah, this was mod. If you put methods in something that was tagged module type test and benchmark, then suddenly that method was tagged test and benchmark, kind of under the covers. So it usually would be rejected, but that way it wasn't. So, oh, this one is wrong. We didn't see this one. Ooh, this is a feature, right? So up here. Let's show this one as well. So, right. So, sometimes you want to write something short. You want to write like a constant like this, const foo, and it's going to be like if it's env, win32, it's going to be one thing, and it's going to be 1. Otherwise, it's going to be 2. Right? And you think like, yeah, this is fine. Oh, wait, that compiles. Yeah, of course it compiles. It's this. Sorry. You go and want to do this. Or did I have some? Oh, wait a minute. Did you catch a bug on stream? Right, because the thing is, this is the one you have to do. This is the one you should be doing. And if you don't need to do that, well, at least you can. Okay, so let's have a super short check here. So I should be turning in if this is it's not recommended to do live fixing of these things. So let's see here. We have there we have our ternary. So see, here we go. So is it const or not? Right. So we go in here and we get, if it's not in, oh wait. Okay, so actually, yeah. So let's say that's right. That's right. I'm just misremember. So let's say we have like this. We're not on Windows 32, by the way, right? So it was not a bug. It was not a bug. So in here, this is a problem, right? So because X doesn't exist, maybe we have like if env win32, then we have an X. But we try to do this and we think like, yeah, this is going to be fine. Or actually we can't do this, but let's say okay, int y is this, right? And now things are going bad because it doesn't exist, even though we don't go in here. So I was confusing myself. So now we get the question mark, and now it just says this because it won't even check this one. So that's the difference. I was thinking of something else. So anyway, it's not going to even try to test this. It will like even if you put weird stuff in there, it like I don't know. Well, I don't know if what works for checking that looks weird. Well, anyway, so it kind of, this one is not checked, right? So that's all you really need to know, this part, because of that. And of course, if you change it, we will get the error because then the X is actually tested for. But that that's something that's been like a problem that wasn't there. So we had this macro called select that did this, but now we don't need that. So we had this select that did exactly this. It would look like select env x2, and that would be the same thing. But no, we don't need that kind of thing. Right. Let's see. Go back to the fixes here. So it seems like some things were in there. So login x is no strip that allows window Wasm to actually work with those as well. Here we go. A bunch of standard library changes. We just go through them. So OpenBSD has some socket stuff. Pair and triple can now be compared. He said that data time can also be compared. We have a file and a map built in. I think it's POSIX only, if I remember correctly, and then we can use map file to use that as well. These are kind of supporting each other. And then there are new hash functions, slightly faster. Actually, much faster, but doesn't give that super boost to hashing. Because that's usually not the big problem, but it's better. Then we have the fixed block pool, which is basically a fixed block or object that we usually call it object pool in other languages with more OO ones. But this is anyway, it's fixed size. That's just one size. And we have the logging. So this is a big thing actually. So it looks like this, and what we have now here is it's basically hooks into logs. This is its own thing, I think, to kind of look at this. But now we can, instead of doing printf like we have done printf all the time here, we could just log. So we could have log info warning a is right, and I'll try to print this. All right, run this. Okay, so log one. Hang on. And did we get anything here? I don't know what print stings. Oh, did I enable warning? Good question. Oh, there we go. So info was printed, but not warning. That's funny. So anyway, here we go. Yeah, I think it might be printed differently. So we have this. This is basically doing just having categories. You can log things, different logging levels here. Verbose, debug, info, warn, error, critical, and so on. You can tag them. I don't have the time to kind of go into details here, but you can tag. You can do whatever you want really, but I'm somewhat confused why the logging, the warning was not working. So verbose is maybe it's like if I just think that maybe there's some bug here with that, because the priority should be all showing everything. But you can say like one category has this kind of warnings and so on. This is kind of the API is kind of standard in a way, right? So here are the category names here. Let's see what you got. So we got the category is not printed by default. Okay, so for the priorities, they are error, info, verbose, and so I think the priority, this seems like the priority is wrong. So if the priority is less than the prio, shouldn't that be greater or equal to? So it's experimental. Let's see if I get our warnings if I do like this. Warn. There we go. That teaches me to, go for this. So info should be shown. No, info isn't shown. Oh, that's horrible. Verbose. Anyway, it looks like I have something to do now, but let me fixing this. But the takeaway here is not that it's we now have this kind of uniform way. You define a logger. It should, is implement this function, and you can have some data in it, whatever you want, and then it's just going to call if it determines that the settings for this is right. So what you're going to do is let me push it. I know the tag is not printed, right? But you can set the priority for different categories and so on, and then you set your logger, right? And then your logger is going to pick those up in basically, and you can do dispatching loggers and so on if you want to, whatever you want. This is just what's in it by default. It's just a super simple standard out printer. So the thing is that this can then later be used throughout the standard library. So the standard library call this when it wants to print something, not doing it by way of just standard out. So that's what will happen eventually. Let me look at that and fix that. I mean, we haven't released 0.7.5 yet, so obviously there are some things that could be wrong, and clearly here it is. I'm just going to go through the next ones as well. So zip and zip-into macros, so they are like zip, the popular zip functions in functional programming. There are some updates to Termios and some freestanding OS types added. libloader API now is completely accessible from OS Win32. Is all the bindings are there. We get some helper things like hash set values, and you can have this address grabbing the address to something from the hash map, which is sometimes nice. We are going towards pull subscribe and pull event in the socket API or select API. There's an ASCII char set for quick matching ASCII characters, and a corresponding trims char set for that. And then we have all the other, these are also reduce, filter, and so that's all again. Those are macros that act like those functional functions. And then the B format is fixed a bit, so it's less say overhead. And then finally, the supplemental round even has a normal implementation instead of using round, and that means we don't need to use link libm for anything unless you actually use it. So that's pretty much it. Any questions now? Okay, so verbose different from debug. That's whatever you decide. That's it's a common thing to have, both different ones. So I'm just going for the most normal. Often verbose will do everything, and you you can't really use it for anything because it will just dump so much stuff. So it's up to you how you. These are just the priorities, names for the priorities. Okay, so okay, like a for loop, yeah. The bug is usually actually you can use that in the, at least for me, it's that's something you can think of, like using in a even a live environment, so I can dynamically kind of turn on. But it's a convention, whatever you like. So, any questions quickly here? Then I'm just trying to live troubleshooting by devs. Yes, if you have been in a production environment where we can't pull down the we have a presentation on the log levels laying around. Well, you can share it um, on Discord or something if you want to have some other. It's marked experimental for because I want to feedback on this anyway. So, um, well, what was I saying? Right. Oh, it's not a very interesting. Okay. Anyway, so this was it. This is 0.7.5. Um, the There is some release notes. Will be a lot briefer than this demo. So, but I hope you enjoyed this. Um, oh wait, live troubleshooting by test. I was just going to say that. So, um, what you can do sometimes is that you want to turn on logging live, right? You have some interface, and then you can hit the button, then you change the log levels for a short period of time, and then you get often that kind of data, right? But it's sometimes something you might want to do. We had these like back in the days poker servers with an actual like a telnet. You could telnet to it and start writing command line arguments and like start introspecting what the state of the server was. Now, right now you have like a web interface for the same thing, right? But it was very convenient because like a web interface, you have to. There are all the things that can go wrong when you do that. And, things can go wrong when you do command line too, but it's just less work to add things and more control. So anyway, then you could just turn on more logging from that kind of interface, right? Or you could think about like have a web interface and you click and okay, let's do more logging now without taking down the servers. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, good day, everyone. So hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching.